Story 1. Face Down by Red Jumpsuit Apparatus was played a lot on the radio when I was leaving an abusive relationship. I definitely screamed and cried to this song in my car quite a bit. It still makes me weepy years and years later. Story 2. I first heard the song, If I Die Young, by the band Perry driving home from work a few days after my wife had miscarried. I had to pull over to the side of the interstate because I was crying too hard to see the road. Story 3. Hide and Seek by Imogen Heap. I always felt it on a breakup song level, until last year when my son's 19-year-old half-brother died of an accidental overdose. It was the song that finally enabled me to just fully on ugly cry about the injustice of it all. Now he's all I think of when I hear it. Story 4. When You Wish Upon a Star from the original Pinocchio Disney animated movie, it makes me cry tears of joy because my grandfather, who was 110, slow danced with me to that song at my wedding. He had been told due to his arthritis, he would have to get around with an electric wheelchair in 2006 and he wouldn't be able to stand for long periods of time. He toughed it out to slow dance with me. Story 5. I wasn't there that morning my father passed away, but I did get to tell him I loved him the last time I saw him when he was at work. Story 6. Songbird Eva Cassidy makes me cry since my mom died. I don't even know why it affects me so much in regards to her, as she wasn't a fan of the song or Eva Cassidy, and neither was I. Story 7. Certainly. Here is the corrected text. Like a Stone by Audioslave really hits hard. It is my favorite song by Chris Cornell, and I wish I could have prevented his suicide. And sometimes Crawling by Linkin Park does it too, but not all the time. Story 8. Here is the corrected text. Samson by Regina Spektor. I'm not sure we ever listened to it together, but it reminds me of my first boyfriend. A year or so out of college, he was hit by a drunk driver while on a moped. I give to a fund at Northeastern's American Sign Language program every year in honor of him. He did and would have done so much good in the world. Story 9. Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd and I Can't Give Everything Away by David Bowie. One of my best friends was murdered when I was a teenager, and he used to always listen to Pink Floyd. When Bowie released his last album, my uncle had just been diagnosed with cancer. He said, out of any music, it was the song he related to the most. Rest in peace to both of the important Jimmys in my life. Story 10. You Are My Sunshine, Elizabeth Mitchell. I always adored my then-wife and soon-to-be son as the lights of my life. To cut a long story short, he nearly died when he was born and spent a few weeks in the hospital, and his mother had to stay in to recover from a cesarean section. The second verse always takes me back to that period of loneliness. He made a full recovery and continues to shine his best each day. Story 11. I think I'm just a sucker for emotional songs in musicals, but here we go. She Used to Be Mine by Sarah Bareilles from the musical Waitress. It's such a beautiful song, in my opinion, and the character's realization of how far her life has deviated from where she envisioned herself going breaks my heart. It's Quiet Uptown from the musical Hamilton. Will I? From the musical Rent. So Big / So Small from the musical Dear Evan Hansen. Story 12. It's a beautiful song, but I can't stop thinking about all the children who didn't get the chance to receive the fatherly love just like their siblings. I want to hug them all and sing this song to show that even though I don't know them, I love them and am always wishing for their happiness. Story 13. Alternative Rock. Hate Me by Blue October. Country. That's My Job by Conway Twitty. Instrumental. Ashican Farewell by Jay Unger. Irish Folk in English. Parting Glass When Sung at a Wake. In the Irish language. Cuina na trí mhóra bí traditionum. The Lament of the Three Marys by Traditional, especially around Easter. Story 14. If We Were Vampires by Jason Isbell. Maybe time running out is a gift gets me every time, thinking about my wife and thinking about how one of us is going to have to go first, and I hope it's not me. Story 15. There was a road safety advertisement when I was a kid with Everybody Hurts by Rem as the soundtrack. It was just a compilation of people doing their everyday things in the beginning, saying goodbye to their families for the day, hanging out with friends, then suddenly all the car crashes start. A horrible but hard-hitting advertisement. And I can't listen to that song without crying. When I need to cry but can't get it out, I'll put that song on, and the waterworks start. Story 16, The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics. It makes me think of my dad and how he says he wished he had cleared the air with some of the disagreements he had with his father before he passed. My local grocery store plays this song once every 2 weeks, and I have to try not to cry while picking out produce. Story 17. I feel myself start to tear up every time I hear it. You can believe every line he sings. Honestly, any Dark Isbell song can do it. Story 18. Silent Lucidity by Queensryche. I relate a bit too much with that one. My mom would visit in lucid dreams. High Hopes by Pink Floyd makes you miss your youth and realize it's all gone. Story 19. When I was 20, I got dumped by my first serious boyfriend. My dad insisted on playing the country music station in the truck all summer long. I cried my eyes out at all the sappy love songs. Whiskey Lullaby was the worst. Story 20. Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd. No words, just raw feeling. It hits even harder if you know the singer's story. She was a street person singing for cash. The band, impressed, invited her in for a paid session, and she laid it down in one take. Took her $80 and they never saw her again. They tried to find her years later, after the album's success, to give her more. Unfortunately, she couldn't be found. Still probably the best vocal work ever put to vinyl, in my opinion. Shame she couldn't hang around. Story 21. A Dutch song called What Remains Are Tears. It means what remains are tears. My grandma, who passed away 15 years ago, loved that song. The title is even engraved on her tombstone. Story 22. Written and recorded in the 3 months after his wife died of cancer, while living at home with his infant daughter. Nothing else really comes close to it. Crusted with tears, catatonic and raw, I go downstairs and outside, and you still get mail. A week after you died, a package with your name on it came, and inside was a gift for our daughter you had ordered in secret. And collapsed there on the front steps, I wailed. A backpack for when she goes to school a couple of years from now. You were thinking ahead to a future you must have known, deep down would not include you. Though you clawed at the cliff you were sliding down, being swallowed into a silence that's bottomless and real. It's dumb, and I don't want to learn anything from this. I love you. Story 23. Stubborn Love by the Lumineers got me through the worst breakup of my life, when the tears needed somewhere to go because I sure as hell wasn't holding on to them any longer. Story 24. When We Fall Apart by Ryan Stevenson. I am so glad I did not come across this song until after my mom was done with her cancer treatment. I do not think I could have handled it when it first came out. Still, the tears flow when I listen to it now. Oh, and if anyone is wondering, she is 3 years cancer-free. Story 25. The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, Roberta Flack version, is an ode to love at first sight in its purest, warmest form. I think it's beautifully sung and composed. The first time I heard it on CBC Radio 2, both myself and the radio host were tearing up by the end. Story 26. Amazing Grace or On Eagle's Wings. It's been played at the funerals of a lot of people close to me, so any other time I hear them or they're played at other funerals, I immediately think, damn it, here we go, at the opening chords. Also, Long Live by Taylor Swift takes me back to simpler times. Story 27. Bigger Than the Whole Sky, Taylor Swift. It's the only song that validates how I felt after my miscarriage. It so beautifully honors that little soul that was bigger than the whole sky and more than just a short time to me. Story 28. Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce. My 14-year-old cat died in 2020, and I listened to that song with him in mind. I always tear up a bit. Then, the memories of everyone I've lost come flooding in. Story 29. Bastille's Pompeii evokes profound sadness when reflecting on the historical event it references. The thought of lovers sharing their final kiss, mothers clutching their children closely, attempting to soothe them in the face of certain doom, is heart-wrenching. Friends, making promises to reunite, oblivious to the impending catastrophe, adds to the melancholy essence of the song. Story 30. He Walked on Water by Randy Travis. Actually, many of his songs are noteworthy. Even if you are not a big country music fan, he had a wonderful voice and his songs are very good. Story 31. Sailing by Rod Stewart. It was played on the piano during the funeral of my great cousin. She lost her battle with cancer at 25 years old, way too soon for a much too good person. She was an angel on earth. Now she can be one in heaven. But I haven't listened to this song even once since that day without shedding at least a tear or two. Story 32. The Ballad of Love and Hate by the Avett Brothers usually gets me. Now, since I've become a parent, You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan makes me cry. I could barely make it through that movie. Story 33. Clair de Lune by Debussy. The melody always tugs at my heartstrings and makes me so emotional for some reason. Which is weird, because the music played at my dad's funeral when I was 12 does nothing to me. The ending of Everybody Hurts by REM also makes me tear up. It's just raw emotion. Story 34. The Hollies. He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. I only have one brother, and when I went to a funeral one time, that song played. I wept thinking about what would happen if he died. It's a great song, but it holds so much emotion for me. Story 35. I just got out of a 14-year toxic relationship, and it just hits my soul. I don't love you, but I always will. That is my life. He will always have a part of my heart, and I will always have a part of his. But the spark is done. Story 36. The Living Years, Mike and the Mechanics. It makes me think of my dad and how he says he wished he had cleared the air with some of the disagreements he had with his father before he passed. My local grocery store plays this song once every 2 weeks, and I have to try not to cry while picking out produce. Story 37. Stayin' Alive by Bee Gees. It was the last song I listened to before my dad passed away 3 years ago. Another is When I'm 64 by the Beatles, because my dad passed away when he was 63. My dad and I used to listen to the Beatles when we would go somewhere. I'm actually getting better at not crying, but I still miss my dad. Story 38. I remember hearing it in my mom's car when I was little and having no idea what it was about. When I got older and it started making sense, I listened to it in my own car and had to actually pull over because I got goosebumps and couldn't see out of my teary eyes anymore. Very powerful song and so sad. Story 39. We Have Only Just Begun, The Carpenters. It was my mother's favorite. Close to You is another one, also my mother's favorite. I sing it when I am alone, and I cannot get through the song without getting choked up. Story 40. Although I am a woman, the song Father and Son by Cat Stevens always makes me cry. I have a very close relationship with my dad, and he is 82 now. This song gets me in the feels every time he sings that he knows he has to go away, meaning death. Story 41. Stand By Me by Florence and the Machine was used in Final Fantasy XV. While the story is shaky in that game, the ending made me cry. That version of the song brings up those memories and does the same. Story 42. Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Air Supply, circa 1983. It came out at the same time my boyfriend left for military training school. I was overwhelmed with grief. Caused me to cry when I heard it for years. Story 43. One More Time by Blink-182. I've lost a lot of people in my life, and this song reminds me how important it is to tell people how much they mean to you while you still can. Story 44. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. Someone Saved My Life Tonight, both by Sir Elton John. Everything I Wanted by Billie Eilish. The Blackest Day by Lana Del Rey. If I'm playing these at midnight, I'm soaking in tears. Every time. Story 45. Hey Brother by Avicii. My brother put this song in a playlist, and the first time I heard it, I cried. I had never cried to music before that moment. We now share a matching tattoo with the Avicii logo. Mine says, Hey Brother, and his says, Hey Sister. Story 46. Righteous Brothers. Unchained Melody. Always remember my dear husband who has gone over to the fourth dimension. It was our favorite song to slow dance to and feel the love. Story 47. I Was Only 19, A Walk in the Light Green by Redgum gets me every time. Those poor young men. Frankie kicked a mine the day mankind kicked the moon. God help me, he was going home in June. Story 48. Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday. Dirt Cheap by Cody Johnson. Concrete Angel by Martina McBride. Adrian by Jewel. Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton. And the greatest of all time of all sad songs, Taps by the United States Army Band. If you know, you know. Story 49. Bent by Matchbox 20 came out when my dad passed away, and my mom played it loudly everywhere while she slowly succumbed to addiction and never recovered. It affects me deeply every time,